The 10th of July 2020, still in English, 24 past 7 p.m., Krakow, Poland. I have created a playlist. These are actually there are a few, I think 4 playlists that I have, perhaps 5, which includes songs. So one of them is my identification of a global change, which to my judgment can reach as far as the former empires becoming the colonies, which implies Europe would be a colony. As a European, obviously I had to take this. So this is the list of songs of the pop and other music stars that I consider particularly powerful in terms of leaderships, in terms of the overall creation of impact and their ability to reach beyond the conscious level, to rule masses on a level that is not exactly only mental, that reaches for spirituality and acts on very, I use the word primordial, which is a keyword different from primitive. Primitive is not good. I mean, you can use it in the positive sense, obviously, talking about ethnicity, but what I mean is this pure spirit before it got all the civilizational and technological build-up. So we can assume that millennia ago the beings had more spiritual power than they have now and lived in a different way. Not to mention no presence of drugs, for instance. So this is one playlist. Another playlist is the one I got thanks to my participation in the Future Learn course devoted to Jane Austen. These are beautiful songs. This is something that really moves my heart when I think of this home and the ladies presenting their skills, their accomplishments. It's really appealing to me. My Englishness, apart from other Englishnesses that I have having to do with literature, where it gets a bit messed up in terms of my political identity, when I have royalty on the one hand and romantics on the other. So this is why I decided to create my own philosophy that I called New Romanticism, which is a revision of Romanticism, trying to reach what was key, and what I defined as key there is the idea of freedom from tyranny. So this is not a pattern, maybe. This is a state of being. If the tyranny changes, then obviously the romantic will stand up and raise the flag of freedom to fight the new tyranny. Then there is obviously Shakespeare, but I wanted to have this juxtaposition here. Then there's the list devoted that I call my grand familia. That is the affinity with the Ottoman Empire, in terms of the presence of the spiritual in the law, from the rule, from the power ruling the country, and it being royal. the rule coming from God. I believe in the Abrahamic tradition as one. So it is both. It is in the Holy Quran, the Abrahamic people. That goes back to Judaism, obviously. And for me, these three key religions are one, only they go in different direction, which implies that there was something missing in Christianity, otherwise Islam would have never come into being. The three books, if I could put it that way, should be read as a whole and understood in reference to each other. So whoever sent Muslims on their war against Jews as infidels has had other purposes. So this is from the Magnificent Century, very inspiring, and opening. And then there's the list Musik, which is entitled in German, and this is the collection of songs that I play every day for inspiration, uplift, and a sense of power. But this is not what I really wanted to talk about. What I really wanted to talk about is that when I listen to those songs, commercials pop in, well, this is really like someone entering your world at one point and having so much to say to you. Which really has an impact and becomes a part of your own space. So, on my paradigm, 7 minutes of introduction, but this is contextualization. My paradigm is called the Onestian paradigm, and it comes from my novel Kingdom of Onestia, which came into being in response to the world that I assessed as not being ruled right due to my situation. I should be living a wonderful life and all should be caring about me and doing their best to make certain that I can just create whatever I want to create, because all my creations originally were good and beneficial and worthwhile. But they have turned me into the enemy, the public enemy. So at this point, the gap was so huge that I decided to create my own world, and this is the Noble Kingdom of Onestia, originally called the Noble Kingdom of Metaphorically. It has nothing to do with whatsoever prostitution, pornography, etc. Obviously, this is the attack, very much in the fashion of the communist regime. And I have come up with a paradigm. So the defining characteristics before revision, it is waiting for a revision, but the original one. To answer possible queries concerning one being closed in one's paradigm or not. The glass metaphor, different schools. So this is a concept quite known, that we view the world through a pair of glasses. But my idea goes further. It actually takes the student in the direction, or a person, in the direction of trying to put on different kinds of glasses. So if we have in psychology, behaviorism, cognitivism, and the humanistic approach, we can view whatever situation, from the very simple one, through the glasses, and then analyze it from that perspective. I believe that builds the awareness of what is actually happening in our lives when we become schooled or introduced to some conceptual framework. And for me, the freedom is the truth. Of course, we can develop our own systems, but truth is at the start. And the idea is to be at this point when one can view things, life and all, without the need to put any glasses on. Of course, I have already arrived at the point, thanks to my experience in Scientology, to the point where I am cautious about the concept of reductio ad infinitum. Correct me if I misletter the phrase. Anyway, reduction which leads us to nothing. So this is obviously not a good outcome or end. So that's the idea. The idea is that wherever you go, you get some classes, prisms, different environments. It has to do with one's experience, life experience. So this is basically the same concept of a certain conceptual framework with which comes a vision of the world being superimposed, or be developed through actual experience, which is also a kind of superimposition. So for instance, there was this little boy whom everybody hated, and the boy is pretty certain that all people are bad. Or there was this little girl whom everybody loved, and the girl is certain people are good, as an example. So these are prisms, and also when we become aware of the existence of the prisms and realize our own, then we can confront them with the real world, which does not imply our having to go through traumas. It's quite enough to make the experiment in our thoughts, if we are at the intellectual level. The Matryoshka perception, different environments concentrically, it has to do with, it is connected with all that. Of course, prisms also have to do, this is I gave a simple example, but it's also being born a Christian and being born a Buddhist. So, you know, in Poland, for instance, you have a problem when you start talking about reincarnation, and you can even be labeled as a sinner. And in Tibet, it would be a transgression to question reincarnation. So that's the awareness that should become global, so that we, I mean, okay, this is true for you, but the equal truth is the other, and then where is the truth? Perhaps both. Perhaps what happens with you after that depends on what you believe in, or perhaps not quite. It's open. The multi-level structure of life, different levels. Environments concentrically. So what I mean here is what I actually drew, and everybody can draw something different. So let me tell you what I drew at the time. It doesn't have to be up to date now. Oh, excuse me. That's not too professional on my part, and I'm not sure I will find it right now. Anyway, so perhaps I will not find it, but let me tell you what I mean. You draw yourself in the center, and then around you there's, for instance, your family as the closest environment. Then there's your school, and then there's your church, and then there is your university, and then there's your political party, and then there's your there's your belief in the Illuminati, and then there's monarchy. So another person, let's say that someone was born as the king, well, his first circle is me and then monarchy. Or imagine someone who's born as a son of a politician, then there's me and there's the party. And that basically is what I mean by the matryoshka perception. So the things you get perceived not necessarily naturally, but naturally in the sense what's typical for you, and what's routine for you, are the things that have been your own world, the world you were born in, and but then there's also this additional data that comes from your previous experience. So you can get born in the environment that is like crazy. Oh my God, I was born the child of a communism and I'm a Buddhist, or I'm an American, I'm a real American, I believe in individualism, in individuality, and they are like, oh my God, what am I doing here? Or I'm a prince, and they are, oh my God. So imagine the shock of the child, and don't make it into an experiment if you have any respect for life. Don't turn it into an experiment if you have any respect for life. So let us look at those most the outside circles that I quoted. You might have different ones. Illuminati and monarchy. So a typical Illuminati would say, wait a minute, I choose who is going to be the royal child. So you see, this is the different worlds we come from. Because for me, naturally, monarchy is larger than the Illuminati. And then we have novel stories. So the overall idea is probably related to my experience, but it's not that pointless on the planet Earth, because we do have the sacred books. So whenever we have the religion, we had some faith, but then the well-established religions still living, each of them has their sacred books. So there is something in the writing of the story. And the idea I have is that actually each of us, every single person, really every, can be a protagonist and actually is. So individual life is very important, and individual decisions are very important, because they become the story added to the human epic. So sometimes something very insignificant can be of huge value and actually groundbreaking at the level the person living down there has no idea of, but it actually happens. The point is, we should become aware of that. So perhaps some people don't like to be the protagonists, and they choose different roles, and they are free to. But the idea is that it's good if we are aware of that each of us actually creates the world. Einstein's errors incapable of a new truth. This can be an incorrect, not that much an incorrect concept, but an incorrect reference. It comes from my reading of the book about Albert Einstein, which tells the anecdote about the equation, and it tells it in the way that what he came up with was not within the system. It was not neat from the mathematical point of view. So he changed it so that it would be neat. There might have been different reasons, but what I'm actually pinpointing here is that he discovered a truth, and whether he was not willing or incapable of accepting it is a separate question. A separate question I did not ask at the moment when I created this paradigm. What is a part of a paradigm is this caution. So you have a system and it's perfect. Wow. And suddenly something does not work. This is probably the black swan. So what do you do? Do you erase the black swan? No, you do not. You put it there, and we'll arrive at what happens next later. But generally, one needs to be capable of of accepting a new truth, which does not mean one is to live like that or change one's life or whatever. One needs to be able to say, okay, I have a system and this system is perfect, and I'm pretty certain this is all correct, but now I have the truth and it does not fit in any way with the system. It breaks the system down completely, but it still is the truth. Putnam's water, capable of a different reality. So that comes from a paper, I believe, a paper that must have been presented at some conference. I found the text in the book for presenting approaches or ideas in the philosophy of language, and it has to do with water. So the idea basically is that on a different planet it can be not H2O, but it can be something totally different, and that is the key. So I think that is quite clear. Sfumato, that comes from the book How to Think Like Leonardo da Vinci. One of the defining features of the thinking. This is tolerating ambiguity, contradictory statements, the unknown, suspended judgment. Suspended judgment is exactly what the paradigm has as the answer to the new truth that does not fit the system. So, okay, well, we see no, craziness, insanity of immediate solutions, immediate resolutions, etc. In other words, no yes situation. Global education, Renaissance, comprehensive, no specification, out of the one-track mindedness. So what is meant by Renaissance? This huge bodies? No, not at all. It means that basically we are not to choose between the humanities and the exact sciences or the exact and natural sciences, but we are to learn about life, and this life develops in many directions, and all those vistas should be open for us, and we can take them or not, but we should be prepared for it at the primary school level. So whatsoever rooting in the early age is totally out of question. One needs to have the basic skills to be able to enter the area. Of course, one can become an expert in the field when one wants to, but the point is one is not to be restricted to a field thinking. So again, you can have the experiments. So take the problem and ask the question: to the teacher, to the journalist, to the scientist, to the mechanic, to the babysitter, to the nurse, to the zoologist, I mean to the person working in the zoo, to a circus man, to an actor, to a singer, to a model, to a cleaner, to a cleaning person, to the director, to the I mean through ranks and whatsoever. So then you will get the idea of what I want, which does not mean that all these people are to become the people and have the experience by working there, because you know, I don't want to. So I don't want to understand the working class by becoming the working class. If you degrade me, then you're basically no partner for me. But it should be possible to have the thought experiment, especially if you are interested in solving the problems of the working class, for instance. So out of the one-track mindedness, specific culture, and this is quite important. No group bias enmity in the quest for knowledge. So this is what I started with, but this is not enough. So this is not only about Scientologists hating Assangists and Assangists hating Scientologists and Scientologists hating psychiatrists and psychiatrists hating Scientologists, both of which might be not true. Just the pageant to keep them in false gaze. After all, you all have been working towards the very same purpose of the survival of the fittest, where fittest is defined. But there's more to it, the problem of competition. So the Honestian paradigm does not accept any competition within the common quest, and it goes back to the nobility of the Middle Ages for knowledge, which means that if you have two great persons, you will have two great potentials, and not one, because one has to kill the other to win the competition. Copernican thinking, breakthroughs becoming official knowledge. So you know, this is this problem of people like Michio Kaku. Who is he? Is he free as the scientist? Well, there's certainly a huge degree of freedom in his case if he could write in his book devoted to science something as racial as the hierarchy of intelligence, with the yellow race being at the top, then the white one, and then the black one. So I believe he assumed that people read his books. So if he could write something like that, he probably has quite a freedom. But perhaps that freedom is also defined by what is actually within the range of freedom. I believe that one of the things that is happening is that the breakthroughs are not becoming official knowledge. So whatever knowledge we get is the state of the art for the masses, and even the state of the art for the experts. Promethean thinking, a gift for humankind. So this is the idea of, well, the Prometheus should be freed from having his what is it called, the part that is eaten every day and then grows again and is eaten again. I don't remember the word right now. But basically what I mean is that knowledge should be treated as a gift for humankind. And as in the case of fire, it can be used for general good or for general detriment. So this is what I had first, and then I added counteracting indoctrination, individualism, and ethics. Counteracting indoctrination is probably the reason why I have been so severely attacked. Individualism seemed obvious to me because I come from that tradition, and ethics seem obvious to me because I am ethical. So basically, I am just presenting it as a voice in whatsoever discussions concerning paradigms and paradigm shifts, and as a voice of absolute freedom. I am the person I am, and being the person I am, I had infinite possibilities, which ended with the physical suppression. In all that genius, am I able to get myself free from that? Oh, I cannot see it, but we live to tell the tale. Agnieszka Bata, Magdalena Rojek from Krakow, Poland.